Hello everybody, welcome back to Wappelville. Welcome back to some 3D printed miniatures, and we got a large scale figure here. It's from Loot Studios. Look at that. Made that logo a little bit bigger, so hopefully people can actually see that. This is one of the very first things I think that I ever printed from them. And I'm pretty sure this is the hollow one. Maybe not. I just keep looking for the plugs here. I don't see any, so I guess this is not the hollow one. That is the nice thing about Loot Studio stuff, is that they've got the hollowed version and solid. Well, you can save on resin, but also I think when it's hollowed, it's less likely to just fall off the stupid build plate. Armored Wolf, thanks so much for coming in. Sorry that this is later. I actually was hoping this would start at 6, and then I realized straight away that, yeah, that's impossible. And then that summons, that jury thing came in, and like, well, that's the end of that. So yeah, that kind of threw everything off, so sorry about that. We'll be going over the paint again. As always, this is pretty much the usuals here. You got your opaque alley of white, brilliant yellow pale, cadmium yellow deep, Terra Rosa there, got your Fanchon red there. These guys, same as always, indigo, black spinel, Van Dyke brown. We do have Indian yellow over here. There's, I guess, a couple of things here that will be sort of gold-like. Got a little guest appearance by Egyptian Violet, should we need it. As usual, asphaltum down over here. I got the Salo green is just left over from last night. I don't really think we'll be using too much of that. We do have a little bit of Perline black. Maybe have to put out some more. And then we got some Prussian blue sitting over there. Now, I did just hit this with some acrylic paint last night, mostly because I got to hang on to this here. I'll probably, once the figure is done, maybe we'll then work our way back out here with the oils or whatever. But I could just see myself doing this and going, oh, yeah, that wasn't good. So I'll just take whatever, just some of the Reaper liner paints, hit that real quick. It does give me a better chance to really get a good grip on this thing here. Now, I think you can see these references that we got for the folks that are here. I guess we'll go with the blonde Galadriel here because we'll just call her Schmeladriel. Guess we'll just say that this is Schmeladriel here. But we do want to go with the lacy type stuff here. And I've got some references saved also too for myself. And what I haven't actually had a chance to do is say something that is more lacy here, but where her arm might be showing through it. Hey, Roger and Grim. How you doing? Sorry this is late. Just too much chaos today, so it kind of delayed things. I apologize about that. Now, like I was just saying, this has been painted with some acrylics because I realized that I'm going to have to hang on to this thing. Once we get the figure painted, I can move my hand out here, and then we could start throwing some more stuff on this. But I just wanted to get this figure painted first here, and then see what happens from there. So, Grim, I hope everything's going good. And Roger, I hope that your Monday didn't have too much Monday in it because, well, Mondays, right? Mondays are not always fun days. We won't have to do a whole lot of, shall we say, pre-glaze, removing of stuff. I don't think so. What I'm going to do is start out with something that's a bit cooler right here. May not go quite so far as to put Perline black in it to green it down. Now, Roger, well, I'm sorry that it's been a crazy day. Hopefully not too nuts. Hopefully something that's slightly manageable. Boy, there's some really deep crevices here. I'm just going to hit some of these right away. Just get that paint shoved down into there. We do not need a whole bunch of this. Let's see, I wasn't able to drop the package off the UPS. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I'm hoping that, well, the person is still serious about getting that printer, because let's just say that Mercurial is definitely a way to describe them. So you ask them something one day, you ask them 2 minutes later, and it is a totally different answer. So hopefully that's still a possibility. I just never know these days. All right, look at this. This is just basically a dry brush right here. Why? Because we're going to be painting over this. We're going to be removing a lot of this. No sense in making this very, very wet and slimy. So yes, this is a pre-glaze, but also, why not just dry brush this in? There's not a lot of crevices here. I mean, some of the crevices that are here, they're very broad, right? And if this was something that had lots of small little, like the, oh gosh, what are the figures I'm thinking about? Remember all those Lazy Squire Games figures that had 1,000 tons of stuff packed onto a tiny little 28mm fig? Those are the times where sometimes you have to go with a pre-glaze that's a little bit, shall we say, drier or more wet, just to try and get the stuff down in all those stupid crevices. But no big deal there, Grim. It's been quite active and crazy here, so that is definitely understandable. I'm gonna play around with a little bit of the asphaltum and some of the, yeah, just a little touch of that Indian yellow. And we'll do too crazy with that. Not too much of that, but once again, it's also going to be dry brushed on here. Well, Roger, I'm glad that you're able to get down to doing some painting there. And hopefully you'll have yourself, I don't know if you want to do a 6 or 7 hour painting session, but even just a couple hours maybe, just to sort of kick back and take the brain off of all the weird stuff, that would be nice. And hopefully the rest of the week kind of chills out from there. Not grim. Now, actually, how did that, when you knocked it down the 30%, did it mess around with the supports a lot or not? Hopefully it didn't mess around with the supports too much. So again, we are going pretty dry here on all of our pre-glaze stuff. It's not like this paint's going to be any thicker because this is some fairly extreme dry brushing that we're doing, right? So since this is dry brushed, it's gonna be almost as, say, thin as if we had just done a glaze form of it. Hey, Velfera. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, the printer popped out, that special print. Yes, I hope I can do it justice. Now, this is a special chance at printing a Kickstarter object before it comes out. Well, that sounds really good. I'm glad that the painting is going to be nice and chill for you, Roger. And Landrast, how you doing? Here, let's just get some of our Terra Rosa in here. Like so. We're going to need some Terra Rosa over here too. Maybe a bit more. So Landris, I hope that your Monday was okay. Yeah, Velfera, this was a bit of a crazy day today. Definitely a little more mayhem than I was hoping for. No doubt about that. But it's just here where we need this Terra Rosa, not here, not down here. We're not doing it's only the sleeves that have a little bit of the see-through stuff going on. And what I've never really tried or had a chance to try before was doing lacy stuff here over that is basically translucent. So this should be kind of interesting, really having a chance to do something like this before. All right, we got our sponges over here. Let's see what happens when we start taking some of this away. Oh, by the way, the primer was just, I think it was a mix of the Steinorez camo green with either some white or the elf flesh or something like that. Just brushed it on, nothing fancy. Hey Megan, how you doing? So Megan, of course, right? You sculpt the thing, and then he says, "Well, I'll send you the piece." that's just kind of the way it's gonna be, right? That is just the way it goes. Well, I guess if you have him send it to you, then you can see how close you were with your sculpting. I guess there's always that. You can see just how close you got, maybe, to that particular detail. You see how the Terra Rosa actually has a little bit of little grip to it there? I'm telling you, for an earth tone, it's got, well, actually all of these here, well, of course, the Indian yellow, but even the Van Dyke Brown and the Asphaltum, they've got a little bit of grip. Thank you so much, Queez. We could we could definitely use a bunch of these right now. Thank you so much, Queez. I appreciate that. Hey, Deck Knight. Queez with us for 16 months. Thank you so much, Queez. That's appreciated. Now, as I was saying earlier, I did go ahead and just hit this with some of the Reaper liner paints because I'm probably going to be gripping that with my hand several times until we get the figure done. Then I can sort of start doing some oil stuff out here. But since there was, I was going to be sticking my hand on there several times, I thought, well, might as well just hit it with the acrylics first just to get something on there. I needed something here because I can't just have this be primer, paint all this, right? We want to be getting paint on everything all at once. All right. Oh, and we got one of our, well, rather somewhat destroyed homemade filbert brushes right here. So it wasn't, well, I guess Megan, I don't know, I guess if you don't like it, you could always, I don't know if you want to remove that and mess around with something else, but all right, putting a little bit of the black in there. Hey, Grumdy, how you doing? And Dick Knight, it's great to see you back in here. Of course, I think I forgot all the lizards downstairs, so we don't, well, we have the one picture of the lizards. We just,
So say we all!
we have Laminus here. Thank you so much, Laminus. I don't mind having one of these either. 8 months. Thank you so much. That's appreciated. And, oh yeah, that's, Laminus reminds me to ask, each day that goes by, hopefully the cats are getting along a little bit better each day, maybe. So this is one of the very first Loot Studios. It might be the first Loot Studios figure that I ever printed, mostly because it was just, well, it's a pretty darn simple print, right? There's not a whole bunch to this. It's just a one piece. A lot less can go wrong with this one. Like I said, I have not had a chance to ask the other person to say, okay, you know, are you actually getting that printer? What's the deal with that? We will have to do that after the stream tonight. Oh, you didn't attach it. Well, that's perfect, Meg. Well, that's okay. I was thinking that, well, you had to sculpt it in place, right? So, that's really cool then. Well, not cool that you had to spend that time, but I don't know. Maybe there was some things you were able to discover. See how that Terra Rosa's staying behind? Hey, Alcides, nice to see you. And Terra Shard. Let's see. So they haven't destroyed anything the last couple of days. So Grumdy, I hope that everything's going good. And oh, Grumdy, I saw the Instagram post. That really is super amazing. When more folks are in here, you'll definitely have to post your Instagram link to that. Well, I guess you could do it now. There's a few people in here. So yeah, why don't you just go ahead and post your Instagram link to that? I mean, it's just, look at this. Look at that Terra Rosa left behind. I could have had to work at this and do all kinds of layering and all kinds of who knows what else here, but why? When I can just let the oils do all this stuff. And yeah, all it is just literally dry brushing this one color over everything, letting that pre-glaze do its work there. So Alcides, I hope that you had yourself a decent weekend and that Monday was all right. And same thing for you too, Terra Shard. It was definitely a unexpectedly crazy Monday here. Well, I guess we should just expect that. Certainly wasn't quite expecting it to be this much lunacy. But now we're just going to be painting this thing here. It's going to be a very busy week, I think. It's going to be very busy. I think also, too, you also have Kathy's first stream as Kathy coming up tomorrow, so there's that is building as well, let's put it that way. Here, let's get some more of our lighter tone right here. I mean, can you imagine having to glaze all this stuff? I can, because there was a time I would have had to do stuff like that. Now I don't have to deal with stuff like that. I'm glad that it wasn't too much of a pain for you to deal with there, Terror Shard. And Alcides, thank you so much for that sub, because guess what? We don't mind more of these, do we? We do not mind taking this particular medicine. Alcides, thank you so much. Let's just take a little bit of that medicine right there. Because, well, yesterday's stream was a wee bit longer than I was expecting. Oh, by about almost 3 hours. It was at least 2.5 hours longer than I expected it to be. It was neat we could get that guy done, and we were able to do lots of puppet shows and lots of crazy stuff there. I guess apparently there's still gonna be another one of those 12 days from now apparently. I guess there will be another Sunday stream or whatever that's gonna be, end of August, because I guess we have to go somewhere again. So it will have to be a not Saturday, Sunday stream. So Alcides, every single month it's precious. Thank you so much. It's it is the reason why we could fool around with those different brushes that we've got, which are working really, really well. So Alcides, that is, actually I think that is White Merlot or something like that. I think that's what that is. For a second I was going to say that was the blackberry ginger ale with the gin, but that was what we were having last week. That is not this week. All right, look at what this, look at all this very nifty, very simple shading. This, I'm telling you, you want to get through all those Reaper Bones figures with still having decent results on them. And in your natural lifetime, I mean, there's this is kind of it, right? Look at how much of that Indian yellow has gotten on the brush. Oh, by the way, this is 15 minutes in. Yeah, this is 15 minutes. I'm trying to think, and of course there was no zenithal priming or anything like that. This is just me slapping on a couple of colors here and a little dry brushy, and poof, there you go. Basically 15 minutes. What was the Geico commercial adaptation that we did last night? There was something about 15 minutes or less. You could actually finish your stupid armies in your lifetime in 15 minutes or less. Hey, Happy Heretic, nice to see you again. Now, so Bacon, I guess, I don't know, I guess it worked out then. You know, you got your replacement piece and you got a chance to see, you know, what, how close you could get with your sculpting, and well, hopefully that at least it would have looked okay. I mean, it might not have been necessarily close to the original, but hopefully at least it would have just been satisfactory. And I wasn't kidding about the painting part of it, because when I first was sculpting stuff, there was stuff that wasn't even sculpted, but just by the paint itself, I could make it look like I had masterfully sculpted something, and there was no sculpted detail there. Like, see all this stuff here that's actually sculpted on there? Oh yeah, even back in the day 20 years ago, I was still able to paint stuff on there to make it look like it had been sculpted detail, but it was not. And thank you so much, Happy Heretic. That is appreciated. 3 months for Happy Heretic. Thanks again so much. See, so Megan will still give that a go, see what it looks like, just to see what you can do. And Aussie, oh, sounds like Aussie's got a big week of painting. So Aussie, how the heck are you doing? So again, thank you so much for the subs. Those really, wow. That's why I guess I was trying to tell Kathy the difference that they've made, but that was just kind of getting her a little bit anxious. So I kind of stopped talking about that, but I think she'll, whenever her stream anniversary is, right, of her, oh, what is that called? Affiliate thing or something like that. I think every month she'll be reminded of just how important that can be. But look at this. See, you got that pinkish color there, and then you got it's almost a little bit more green everywhere else. I'm glad that you're doing great there, Aussie. Yeah, oh, thanks, Happy Heretic. I hope that this does make it, I don't know, just a little bit easier for folks trying to do their painting, have more fun with it, because, I mean, for crying out loud, this is supposed to be a fun thing, right? And just so many times when people are talking about it, I just kind of think, oh yeah, well they're doing this for a living. They're a commissioned painter. They'll just put up with that kind of stuff. And then I said, no, wait a minute. No, they're not a commissioned painter. This is supposed to be their fun thing. After dealing with everything they got to deal with just on a regular day, then, tack this on too. Hey, TBO Hobbies, how you doing? So there was nothing for the Flesh Jones except just a little bit of the Terra Rosa. And just like here, this is mostly Van Dyke Brown. Here we let a little bit of the Terra Rosa get in there too, so that because that's going to be see-through lacy stuff right there on the sleeves. And then most of the rest of this is just Van Dyke Brown, maybe a pinch of the black spinel in some places just to keep it from getting too red. Just to kind of neutralize it a little bit. The indigo would have been, I think, too cool of a color. Not that we might not put that in later, but it's very, very simple. It was just Terra Rosa. There's nothing else there. But obviously letting the brush do all the work, right? Letting it just pick up some of these other colors, bringing them up there. We'll certainly go back into the face. We'll be doing some other stuff with that, but it's kind of wild, right? What it just does straight off the bat. View, how you doing? Yeah, TBO, it's very simple. All it was, just some Terra Rosa. That's why I enjoy it because it's also the same color that we use for rust. It's an amazing color. It's got opacity to it, which is really nice. Actually, Bew, we've only been at this about 20 minutes. Hey, Lord Dave. How the heck are you doing? Nice to see you again, as always. Let's see, I just want to so Aussie, she's been streaming as More Than Dice basically the entire, I don't know how many years, maybe 2.5 years or so. But for quite a while, she's been thinking about just streaming on her own. And especially now that both John and Gonzo are streaming a lot, it's kind of a pain to have three people streaming on the same account because, well, first of all, you have to change all of your information and stuff every single time. And if you forget that, which, believe it or not, is really easy to do that, it's just kind of a hassle. So again, it was very simple. All we did, and the pre-glaze was super dry. I mean, it was very dry. We just dry brushed all that stuff on and just kept it nice and easy. And all we're doing here is just dry brushing over the top. First it was the Brilliant Yellow Pale. Now it's a little bit of the Quick Dry White here. Yeah, Aussie, tomorrow is supposed to be her first day as just Kathy. So right now, I think she's with V in the other room, and V is trying to show her some things about, I think, things like chat bots and some of the other stupid technical stuff that you got to screw around with, which really is kind of it's kind of a pain to just, it is a pain. It is not the easiest stuff to deal with, and it's always changing all the time. And it breaks so darn easy. Yeah, so tomorrow, that is anyway. That's when she's supposed to do her first stream. So that'll be Tuesday, what, the 17th? Yep, that is supposed to be her first stream as just Kathy. And I think too, she also didn't want to, just offend the other folks too, saying, well, now I want to just go off do my own thing. They said, well, we kind of figured you were going to do that, especially now that they are streaming practically every day themselves. Lord Dave, I think for whatever reason, I might have just mentioned that offhand, saying it's now it's just Kathy. But I don't know if someone else is using that or not, but I know I think I might have just in passing might have mentioned that, not even realizing. And I think we did have a little bit of a chuckle about that as a possible screen name. Bithron, nice to see you. Hopefully all the rest of the 15 mil stuff goes well. This is most definitely not 15 mil, is it? This is the first time in a long time I've actually had a chance to work on a large scale thing on stream. I'm trying to think, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this was the last large scale thing that I got a chance to work on. I think this is it. Yeah, this is the RM printable thing. This might have been the last vaguely 75 mil thing I've had a chance to mess around with. But honestly, she'll definitely appreciate the support. I told her that there was a lot of people waiting to support her, but then of course that kind of generates some anxiety there, some expectation. I think that's another reason why she kind of stayed with the more than dice stuff for a while. Let's see, putting the basing on the minis, and you can paint that bottom and then work on the figures. The Medusa was I think that was a 3-part, yeah, Wilfred, that was a 3-part thing. Part 1 was making the base, part 2 was painting the base, and then the final part was just painting the figure itself. So yeah, that was a 3-part Patreon series, which actually, that's what all this stuff is for. That's what this was supposed to be for. But I think we might have done this during a Twitch stream. I could swear that we did this during yes, I think we did this base during a Twitch stream. Remember when we were doing our basing Thursdays? Yeah, I think that was, honestly, it just has to do with when all of a sudden you're the one responsible for things. That just generates anxiety. When you're when someone else has to be the final arbiter, there's a little bit less pressure on yourself than there is otherwise. Let's see here. Let me, oh, there we go. Let's see. Yeah, Lord David, I would guess the usual 3 o'clock starting time tomorrow, I would imagine. Boy, you can still see some of that Terra Rosa underneath there. That's really cool. So Landrest, I do believe in Kathy's circle of friends, they refer to Kathy as best Wappel. I think that's the expression that they use. So we're definitely used to being in second place, right? But I'm pretty sure that all of the more than dice folks and everything, I think they always refer to Kathy as best Wappel. Here, let's get a little bit more of our lighter white in here. It's interesting how that brush is tightened up, right? Remember that was just frayed all over the place? Now there's paint in there. This is what I'm telling you. If I was doing this with acrylics, it would be, I mean, it would look like, I don't know, it exploded or something. But you see how the oils kind of act as conditioner for that brush? Hey, Zip Zap. Oh, is there a Bryce in the house? Where's Bryce? Hey, Bryce. Yeah, so Bryce, how the heck are you doing? Nice to see you again. So Zip Zap, I was just saying that I believe that the basing of this was done on a Thursday basing stream back in the day. I could be wrong, but I know there was something that was larger scale. And I know that I filmed the basing of the Medusa in a separate video, so I know that was not done on stream. But this one just might have been done on stream here. So yeah, that's just a wee bit of dry brushing, right? That's all it is. So it looks like so Bryce, I'm sure all of your classes are sold out, right? And you're going to be very busy getting all of your stuff ready for those things, which is not all that long from now. No pressure or anything like that. You know, not to increase the anxiety level over impending classrooms filled with anxious students or anything like that, who will be hanging on your every word and judging everything you say. Lord Dave has completed the class prep, but now, Lord Dave, doesn't it always work out that way, right? That the best laid plans for doing entries and things like that. It is basically the reason why I don't even try to do stuff like that. I'll just say, well, if I'm there and they do something like that, I'll just, I don't know, whatever I got, I'll chuck it in there, and that'll just have to be good enough. Let's see. Yeah, Lord Dave. Oh, actually, I do have some info about the streams that I'll be doing during ReaperCon. Uh, well, I'll just be streaming, kind of like last virtual ReaperCon. I'll still be doing the streams, but I guess they're gonna have them on TVs at the convention. That's what I was told a few hours ago. That was another part of the mayhem of earlier. So sold out of airbrushing, everything is washed, and Sauron asks, after what you are, I'm going to try and paint some of the new Stormcast Holy oils, starting on Thursday. Oh, that's a green armor, should be very fun, Sauron. Yeah, I think that should be really cool. You'll have to definitely let me know how that goes, for sure. But I'm glad that we could kind of be a little bit of a boost there, maybe a little reassurance that it's not super difficult, right? I mean, look at this. This is not super difficult, is it? It's been nothing but dry brushing. Think about it. The pre-glaze was dry brushed on, and then we dry brushed, well, after we removed some of the pre-glaze, then we did some dry brushing on top of that. So, phew, I mean, it has to kind of hopefully maybe that feels sort of good knowing that, well, yeah, it's just a bunch of dry brushing. I can do that. That's not super complicated. Boy, it's going to be really neat now that I got my magnifier light that actually has the light on instead of relying on other lights around it. This is really going to be fun. Now you can see how we're going in here. This is still dry brushing right here. I mean, look at this. See hardly any paint on that brush right there. Yeah, so that's what they were saying. They're going to put them on the TVs, which I I had asked about a long time ago. I said, well, instead of trying to, well, the Fort Wappel I can't do there just because of how things are going to be. What if I just streamed here and you take those same TVs that you were going to have by Fort Wappel anyway and just have them broadcasting the craziness that we're doing here, right? Because it's going to be crazy. So TBO Hobbies, there's nothing fancy about it. It's a $35 light that I just got off of Amazon. The only thing that's special about it is that it's dimmable. All of the other magnifier lights that I've gotten for the last 10 years, maybe. Well, longer than that if you go back to the fluorescent age. But all of the other previous lights that I've gotten, if I turned them on, they overwhelm the camera. It was like turning on a spotlight or a searchlight or something. This is the first time I haven't had to deal with something like that. Or not getting the gray bars of death. So those were some real critical things that just were very different about this lamp, and it's just on Amazon. Yep, Bryce, it's going to be the max paint room, max headroom paint room. That's what it'll be. Let's see, we're sneaking in a little bit more of our skin tone there. But again, it's all a dry brush. I mean, do you see any paint in my hand at all? But yet when I put it on here, you actually see some paint. Now, the next thing we might just do is grab a little bit of our Fanchon Red here and see what we can do. Because we don't need the Terra Rosa absolutely everywhere. And where's our AON? So this is kind of what we're after right here. We're going to have to get some of our grayish tones in here. But this is that same Terra Rosa that we used on our AON bust right here. Lord Dave, you know what? This might be the first Fort Wappel where people are allowed to have red paint, because they can feel free to spatter it all over each other. In fact, that might be mandatory. There might have to be an obligatory thing where somebody just goes in there and spills red paint on everything and everybody. Because it's not Fort Wappel without that. So if somebody wants to volunteer to just go in there and just spill, and it has to be really bright red paint. We're talking about blood red paint, and it has to be spattered over everything and everybody. The furniture, the table, their miniatures on them. So whoever's willing, whoever's up for that, I fully endorse that, because again, it'll make it just like Fort Wappel, won't it? So see how we're getting that brighter red in some areas? I might be able to. Let me do something here.
Who enters my domain?
I'm gonna get a little bit closer here as we have Laughing Goblin Studio has returned, which means we have the laughing. Hey, lady! Wow, that's a really tall lady. Hey, lady, you got a quarter? And she's, I don't have a quarter. I have a ring. Says, is that ring like the size of a quarter? She says, no, my hands aren't that big. He says, I don't know, you're pretty tall. I think it would fit. So thank you so much, Laughing Goblin Studio. She has red boots, but she gave them to these guys instead. Yeah, she gave them to these guys. So yeah, they have the red boots right now, unfortunately. And they don't want to give them back because they found out that those red boots make them go faster. So yeah, they're not giving those back. Let's see, I'll bring my oil so that anyone wants to try some oil painting. Oh, Lord Dave, that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic. You know what's interesting, Lord Dave, is that last ReaperCon, I actually was working with oils. When I was doing the stuff for me, I was working with oils the entire time, which is, it just occurred to me right now that yeah, way back, I was actually working with oils the whole time I was at Fort Wappel there. All right, here, we're gonna get some of that grayish tone here underneath the eyes. Let's darken that down just a smidge here. Just gonna darken that down. We don't know how to make it look necessarily like eyeshadow, but just to start to darken a few things down. Let's get some darks here inside the ear. Should have a little bit of a reddish tone to it. Get a little bit of our Terra Rosa mixed with some of this. Darken that down just a smidge. Thanks, Bryce. Yeah, unfortunately, I forgot the lizards downstairs. I meant to have them up here so that we could check them out while we were doing this and such, but of course I left them down there where nobody can see them, not even me. So, apologize for that. Well, we'll certainly have them. We'll have them around. Well, there's the one obviously still not dry yet because we were just painting it last night. So I guess it's all for the best. Hey, Pendrake, how you doing? And again, if everybody could please give Laughing Goblin Studio a follow, that would be sensational. because we want to support all of our fellow streamers, right? Let's see. So yeah, the lizards right there. I I don't know if the other two sets are basically the same lizards, just in different colors. We'll find out when we find out, pretty much. Alrighty, now let's see if we can. And the hair, by the way, all the hair is a little bit of Indian yellow. And then we dry brushed some of our, well, what the heck is that stuff? All we did was, yeah, we just dry brushed a teensy tiny little bit of our, I think it was Brilliant Yellow Pale. I think it was pretty much just Brilliant Yellow Pale at that point. Now I'm trying to find, here we go. Let's just grab one of these guys here. I'm just looking to have a little bit of the asphaltum here. This crown, I'm thinking I might need to darken up a few areas on the crown, and then we need to try and get a couple of darker areas on the hair. Let's go back to that. That Indian yellow is just, it's incredible. And here we're just doing a little bit of dry brushing again of that Indian yellow, but because it is so translucent, it's almost like it's a glaze. It's like a dry glaze. Think of that. It's tonight. Laughing Goblins do a second stream. Everybody, please give Laughing Stock Studio or Laughing Goblin Studio a follow, so that when the let's see. Do you have a stream schedule yet? I know it was a while before I even came close to having a stream schedule, and even now it varies. It still varies from time to. I wish it didn't have to, but it just kind of does because, well, things happen, right? No, thanks, Aussie. Thanks for doing the follow thing. So see, we can come back into this so easy. It's again a little bit of the asphaltum, a little bit of the Indian yellow mixed together. Look at that. And then we can come back into this and sort of regenerate some of our highlights. But when in doubt, make things darker. We say that all the time, don't we? Hey, Talls, nice to see you again. Well, for a tall, smart man, we have a tall, smart lady, because she's really tall. She's 72 mil, or 75. I don't know. They say 72. I think they say, or did they say 75 on the Loot Studio figs? I can never remember. For whatever reason, I always had heard that this size is 72 mils. So if you're wondering why I say 72 and everybody's like, no, Loot Studios are 75, it's just from the old days. She's definitely very tall. Because, well, there you go. It's like, Galadriel, you sure you didn't take that ring? He's like, what do you mean? Well, I kind of heard that Frodo said, you want this ring? And you said, I don't know, maybe I will be a Dark Queen. Dark is the sea, and all will love me in despair. And he's like, wait a minute, that sounds really cool. Where's that ring? Now, I don't know, if I do get that, if the person does follow through and gets that large format printer, maybe we can print this even bigger. Because, that would be cool. And of course, this is Schmaladriel. This is not actually Galad. This is Schmaladriel here. This is it's the not Galadriel. Here, why don't we also maybe fool around with a little bit of putting in some of our gold right there. Boy, Chapman, sorry to hear about that. That just doesn't sound. It just sounds horrible. So sorry about the outages. Actually, Chapman, are the surges worse than the outages? Because it's those darn surges that'll actually wipe out devices. Because I know it was less than a week ago here that I kept turning off things left and right just to kind of save them from things like that. Ah, cheers, Laughing Goblin. Yeah, we have an entire cast of characters. Of course, when it comes to elves, we have the grumpiest elf in all of Middle-earth. That's Elrond. He's just so cheesed that, ah. So, hey, Galadriel, it's a, tell me why I keep letting him into my place with all his weird friends, smoking all their pipe weed and everything. She's like, I don't know. You don't see him hanging out my spot very often, do you? It's like, yeah, you know what? I think we can't let him around as much anymore. So the oh, Rovanian wine. There you go. Actually, there was a really neat T-shirt that I saw. It kind of has the whole biker Hell's Angels look to it, but of course it's Riders of Rohan. And I saw that and I thought, oh man, that would be really fun to have something like that. I I don't know, it's probably Teespring or one of those sort of deals, right? All right, not quite sure what we did with that one brush. That one seems to have all of a sudden disappeared, so we'll just have to start playing around with something else. Actually, let's mess around. Is this the spotter? Yeah, that's the 5-0 spotter. I don't know. Let's start playing around with this. We haven't had a chance to use this very much. Let's see what happens here. So, and yeah, Chapman, sorry to hear about that. Well, I always was kind of always worried about those sort of storms and stuff here just because we've had them before. But after June and July, we are super hypersensitive here. It's just been absolutely nuts, even this month. So I can only imagine you just kind of get very jumpy, right? So see how we're coming kind of back in here with some of our darks, but none of that is a glaze. That is still just dry brushing that stuff over the top. And it should be fairly interesting to see what happens when we come back in with our lighter colors. Now, I mean, this should really stand out. But right now, we're just doing the thing where we make it darker, right? Hey, Dano, nice to see you again. Yeah, so Dano, we are officially 47 minutes into this. And it just tells you how powerful the oils are, right? That you get something like this, and all of this stuff in 47 minutes and 43 seconds. So Lord Dave, all you have to do then is just print out one of these, and in about 3 hours you should have a contest entry for ReaperCon. So there you go, just fire up that printer that you don't have. Let's see. Yeah, I think Dano, we're going with Schmaladriel here on this. Yeah, we're looking Schmaladriel here. I think that's what we'll just call her. Let's darken this down a bit more here. Again, that is not all glazy or anything like that. It's basically just a dry brush. It's a tiny little spotter brush. And we're just doing a little bit of, well, I guess it's not dry brushing in kind of the earlier sense where it was much broader what we were doing with the dry brush. Yeah, see that Bryce also agrees right there. Now the things that Chapman here is that you could have the tornadoes, you have the storms that come out of nowhere, you have the blizzards too. That you have a whole panoply of ways for basically to die here. I mean, I guess it's variety is the spice of life, or is it now death or whatever? Because you never quite know what the heck is going to happen here from one week or day to the next. But Grim, faux Ladriel, well, I guess it all depends, how is she tricksy and false? If she's tricksy and false, then she becomes faux Ladriel. Of course, Grim. Oh, I don't know if you ever got a chance to see Kathy paint Paladriel. And I think what was her mighty steed called? I think her mighty steed was called Patches or something like that. Now, unfortunately, we can't. That was a very rare Mithril Miniatures figure, so I don't know if we'll ever get another one of those for her to paint. But yeah, she painted Paladriel because she painted it all basically plaid. So yep, that was Paladriel. And of course, I think what was the other thing? There was something I think, Graham, that you were. It was another faux character. It was another faux character. What was it? It was another character. It wasn't Galadriel. It was somebody else, and you put the faux in front, and it sounded really good. Yeah, boo. It was a while ago. It was definitely a while ago when she painted Paladriel. It might have been last summer, maybe. You see the color temperature difference there? This is where we were putting in the Van Dyke brown, whereas here, that's the Indian yellow with a little bit of the, probably not Terra Rosa. I think it's mostly just the asphaltum there, just like what we got here. And then on the crown here, this is where I'm going to have to try and maybe get some cooler colors as well. Maybe something cooler that's pointed down here. I'm not sure. We don't have to decide that just yet. But they were kind of backfilling the darks here on the hair, but it's not a glaze or anything like that. So Valfera, you'll you'll be very when you hear how easy it was. But first, a little of this. So we got ourselves some values there, but you don't see any difference, right? In the warmer colors, the cooler colors, there are more here. And I mean, you can see the value that we put in. Gee whiz, you can't even see your skin tones. Now watch what happens. Especially look at this area right here when we bring this back. So as usual, Valfera Terra Rosa was at the heart of it. Let me see. So we're 52 minutes in. 52 minutes in here. But yeah, we dry brushed some Terra Rosa on there. We took the same brilliant yellow pale that we were dry brushing over everywhere else. We dry brushed it on top of that skin tone. Then we came back in, a little bit of Fanchon red, threw that in there, and dry brushed some Fanchon red into a few places because, just reasons, right? Let's see if we can't do something here. Make these just a bit, at least for right now, a little bit darker. Just marking those. Let's see if we can get some richer colors here around the eye, or richer darks anyway. I guess that's what we're thinking about. So if you're talking about the plaque there, Chapman, oh, that was just a cheapo wooden plaque from, just got it just from Hobby Lobby. Yeah, it's just a cheapo wooden plaque. Now the basing here, as usual, is our Sculpey texture roller thing, and then we did the epoxy sculpt tree branches around it. It's the same idea as what we did here on this army painting series. So you look at the same elf rollers, the same epoxy sculpt trees there. And I'm pretty sure that this was done actually in a basing session on the Twitch channel before we started doing, I think we were doing sculpting Thursdays, and then we did basing through. It was either one or the other. We either started out with basing Thursdays, went to sculpting, or it was the other in reverse. I don't remember. It's been long enough that I don't remember. Let's see. So yeah, actually what we have is we have footage, right? So this was actually filmed, probably a couple of weeks ago. you know how we always never get the days right? We never know what day it is or whatever. That's the actual reason why we don't know what day it is on stream, because it was actually filmed much earlier. So what we do is just to make an impression, all we do is we just jump in there and go, "Oh yeah, see, look, now it's only 10 minutes later. Look what we got done." Oh, thanks, Chapman. Yeah, and it's not like you can only get these at Dick Blake. I think I've gotten these off of or start, yeah, Dip. I can get them off of. Probably got them at Michael's too. In fact, we probably used to just buy these at Michael's, but it's been years since we were last in a Michael's. So, but I think you should be able to find them at any one of those places. Michael's, uh, Dick Blick, I'm sure, Hobby Lobby, any one of those places. And I think you got probably, these might be the 4-inch ones. I think there's smaller ones than these. And then there's a slightly bigger size. They come much bigger than this, but then you start getting a little bit pricier. But these are pretty darn cheap. I mean, all we need it for is just to sit everything else on top of, right? Because here's another example. Yeah, there's another one of those wooden bases right there. And of course, even this one is painted on one of those wooden bases. Here, let's get her back out here. So this is also one of those wooden bases, or plaques. I should just call it a plaque. Now, the one thing you do have to do, and I kind of forgot to do it on this one, I think, is that on the two sides here, where the grain is, you got to sand the heck out of that. And by sand the heck out of it, I mean you got to sand the heck out of it. Otherwise, once you start putting your, or you could just stain this too. Like this wood, we used to stain these back in the day. I just don't have the time to screw around with that now, so I just paint them. But you could stain them, and they look really nice actually when you stain them. We used to actually have a jar of polyurethane as well. I don't know, if I start doing more of these, I think it's because we just stopped doing things like this. You know, now that I have, because we were doing lots of little vignettes and dioramas. Now that I'm going to be doing a lot of those again, I don't know, maybe I should start getting, maybe I should get that again. Get some polyurethane and get some stain of some, well, actually, you don't even need the stain. You could just take oil paints and thin the heck out of it and stain it with the oils. I'm sure it would pretty much look like just the stuff. The that Terra Rosa is just such a convenient color. It does so many wonderful things. And I believe it's a Series 1. I'll double check, but if I can actually find it. Yeah, it's a Series 1. So amazing. Perline black, this, indigo, they're all Series 1 colors. So they're as cheap as it can get. I think Van Dyke Brown is as well. Where did that... Oh, yeah, we're over here now. I think that's part of the crown here. Yeah, that's part of the crown. Let's not forget that. Then we got to start figuring out that lacy pattern. This was all the easy. All this stuff is the easy stuff. The lacy pattern, that's where things are going to get interesting. And, you know, it's one thing on Saruman here to just kind of give the impression of it. Here, it's a little different. We actually have to try and do an actual pattern there somehow. So that's gonna be interesting. It's a little different ball game there. So I think this is, oh, this is the 10-0. Where the heck is my 18-0? Is this it? Nope, that's not it. There it is. So we'll be coming back to our 18-0. Let's get that out here just to have that handy. Now maybe I might do a little bit of a semi pinline wash here. See how that's just kind of a how it just spreads around all that little filigree right there. But you notice we're just touching the brush to it. So Lord Dave, just as right now, let's say you sit down tomorrow to try and knock off the rest of your entry there. Do you have any kind of an idea like, you know what? If I can spend 2 days on this part, that would be great. Are there any sections where you just say, okay, I have to prioritize this over this because this is kind of the main center of interest or whatever? Or is it just you got to kind of work on everything? Because I wasn't sure if you could just sort of prioritize certain areas or whatever. Or is it just one of those things that I just got to get it all going? Hey, Reiner, nice to see you. If everybody could please give Reiner a follow, that would be sensational. So, Reiner, hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully your Monday was not too much Monday, because there was a lot of Monday here, and Chapman has also had a Monday with way too much Monday in it, because that can happen. Hey, Imperfect Ideal. Yeah, so Imperfect Ideal, this is the, again, that's the Green Stuff World texture roller with the Sculpey, and that's just epoxy sculpt. Remember all the tree sculpting that we did for our eagles? That was the same thing. And it's the same thing in this. So this was, I think this was Series 21. This was either Series 20 or 21. This was the Lumineth, and it's the exact same texture roller. You can even see right there. And then you can see the epoxy sculpt tree doing the same thing. Let's see. So Dano, this was that old Elegoo Mars, and that's the one that's dead now. So this is on the dead Elegoo Mars. The deceased Elegoo. Well, I mean, it just, if you get it a new screen, it will be less deceased. I suppose I could try to print stuff on it. If I was printing out a whole bunch of small miniatures, probably 80% of those miniatures would print up okay. But somewhere between 20 or something percent of them would have what looks like somebody drilled a hole through them. And that's just because the screen is, there's dead pixels on the screen, unfortunately. Shay's, oh, you guys are doing the hangout now. Okay, I thought she was still doing the thing with V. Oh, that's we have a new character that we will be introducing. We have a new character that we might be introducing at some point during the evening. Not sure who that was down in the corner there. Oh, yeah, Dano, this, well, the Loot Studios files are really, really nice. They print up just fantastic. And the supports are done really well. They're really easy to get rid of the supports. So many fun things, so many different fun sculpts they make. I know that they just did their big Viking thing, and I think it's Nerryfield, right? I think Nerryfield has gone in on the Vikings big time. So we'll have to ask Nerryfield what they think about the Loot Studios Vikings. So they're all in the hangout. Yep, they're new Viking minis. So yeah, we've got, let's see, hopefully I've got the other little, there it is. I almost lost track of where that was. Here, let's put that back to where we can actually see it. So yeah, there's a potential new character that might be joining us on stream over the next, well, like a permanent character, of course. So Dano, I know I have a couple of other ones. Sadly, I don't have any pictures of the Medusa, not on the stream right here, but I do have this. This is another one of the first ones that I printed out. Oh, this is another one that I did for the Patreon page. This one right here. So that one was very fun too. And that was that one printed out hollow. Here, let's get my scene back. There we go. So Adam also has gotten the Vikings. So what was their was there 3 different factions or something along those lines that they had? I think there was, and there was, now are the boats intact or are the boats more like ruins or whatever, or, wrecked boats? Because I thought they were intact, but then someone else had mentioned that the boats are more like shipwrecked boats. Now, actually, oh, Landrest, those pictures that I sent you of was that Titan Forge, I think, Landrast? That's basically, that would be an entire Farharad army right there. And what's nice is that it's not actually Lord of the Rings, right? They had no, I'm pretty sure they had no intention of that being used for Lord of the Rings, unless maybe they did. I don't know, Landress, do you think they're stealthily trying to do what like Diwali does, but not be quite so as obvious as Diwali and not to attract so much attention? Let's see. So 3 of them plus monsters. The boats looked intact. Oh, plus a wrecked one. Okay. So I think what was it last night, Dano, or is it last night into today that for patrons there were some very special prices or something like that? I think it was better than 20% off, or was that the deal? 20% off for existing subscribers. So yeah, Adam, the Loot Studios figures, I needed stuff like this. I needed 72 mil figs, basically an endless supply of them. And then I also wanted to have some busts. And of course, the nice thing is that they'll do those characters and then they'll also do a bust of those characters. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's just a pinline wash right there. It's criminally easy, right? This is just a little bit of asphaltum, bam, boom. Just drop this here and see how that just expands? It just did it all by itself. I don't have to do anything. It's it's just so crazy. And you would try doing this with acrylics or whatever, and it's just not going to do the same thing. All right, here. And of course, this is the big old liner brush. So this is the 10-0, which means that it's holding boku amounts of our liquid here, right? But you see how we kind of target a nice little area here, and then we let it do its own thing. We let it expand, do what it's going to do. We're not going to force that. Here, well, we need some darks on this side. And now we can come back in here. Once we start adding some real genuine lights to the hair, that's just going to be amazing. Here, why don't we take a little bit of this here Egyptian violet and do something here with this crown and maybe try and gear up some other colors for this besides just that light yellow. Let's see. So the Ice Tribe, Sea Tribe, Forest Tribe, and the monsters, including some giant, and the sale is for everyone. The whole lot for $75 for US subscribers. And oh, and Perfect Ideal has trust issues. Imperfect Ideal. I mean, that's okay. Don't we say it all the time, right? That it can be, especially for folks not used to it, it can be a little bit unnerving to just, like hand the paint your beer and just say, all right, go do whatever it is you're going to do. So I can see that being a little bit nervous, a little bit nerve-wracking for some folks. Yeah, let's do some of a little bit of a grayish color here. It's so funny. All of this stuff to me is just a sideshow. What I really have to figure out is exactly what we're going to be doing with all of this, the lacy stuff later. Right now I'm just like, yeah, okay, sideshow here, sideshow there, whatever. No big deal. What I'm gonna do now, oh no, I'm gonna stick, I think, with some of the asphaltum and maybe Egyptian violet here. So, by the way, I just threw some Reaper liner paints on this earlier because I knew I was going to have to hang on to this, mostly just to be able to fit this on camera. Maybe once the figure is painted, if we still have time, we can start painting some more details on the base with the oils. But for right now, just sticking with those acrylic colors there. So let's get some of the, we need some darker tones around the eyes here. Just want to make sure you can see that. And then we'll have to go in there with their lighter colors. And I'm so glad that I have actual genuine liner brushes now for doing stuff like this. I think that's the other reason why I had saved this one, and actually all of these, because I wanted to have the really nice liner brush or just some other much better brush going for these things. Here we need to get some more of our darker skin tone out there. We might need to come back with a little bit of our Terra Rosa here. Darken this down a bit. I might just see if I can't get away with making my light a little brighter here, for me anyways. Yeah, I can get away with that. See, that's the thing about this new light, is I just bumped it up maybe 2 levels to make it a little bit lighter, and it didn't really do anything on camera, but for me it made a huge difference. So, man, I'm gonna have to get another one of these, I swear, just to have one. So Happy Heretic having more fun with those God tier minis. Happy Heretic, I know there was something that I had to do as a commission, and they didn't tell me what it was. It was the folks on stream. They said it was a God tier miniature, and it was a really nice one. If I remember right, it was really nice to paint. So what we'll do is we'll get, again, the darker colors in here, and then we'll let that set for as long as we can, then come back in with some of our lighter tones. Speaking of lighter tones, I think we can maybe come in here with, no, maybe not yet. Maybe not just yet. I am going to grab something like this here, and I think we're also going to darken this down just a smidge. Yeah, we'll just let that get darkened down a little bit there. Maybe even a bit here on the clavicle, a bit over here. And the nice thing is that all this stuff can just get blended on in there. We might even have a little bit of it, yeah, sway into the shadows here, because we're hoping to have what basically appears to be a little bit of the skin tone peeking through this, especially where the fabric is actually touching the skin. And we can smooth some of this out. Let's get some more of that over here too. And a lot of this, I don't see it be covered up by all of the filigree and lace pattern and such, but it will be a little bit. All right, where's one of my blending brushes? Just want to make sure there's no paint on that. It's nice and smooth. I think we're good there. Time to do a little bit of, oh, look at that. Heh. Ay, ay, ay. Where has this been for the last 20 years in miniature painting? Well, we got it now. That's all that matters. Now we're going to take some of our brilliant yellow pale. A little bit more of the Terra Rosa there. See if we can maybe get some actual highlights on here, because most of what we've got there is still more of a middle tone. So now we're starting to maybe get into some true straight up highlights here. it would be fun to try this one again, more of a moonlight setting or something like that. Maybe some kind of object source lighting on it. Really would be. So just the oils make that so nice and easy. And this, all of a sudden, let's really start to show up some more. Remember that the skin tone had a little bit of drama to it before, but now that we've really started to come in here with some of our lighter tones, we got some very nice things going on with that skin tone. You can really see a lot happening. I think we're probably going to also darken down the area of the clavicle there. We're going to lighten this up a little bit more though. We will let that blend as much as we can here with what's already existing. Lighten up that shoulder a little bit. Looks now like we have light that's coming straight down. We'll just feather these new highlights right across the face here, all across the forehead. See what we can do for the ears. Like so, and look at where my hand is. You can't even see my hand. If I got a death grip on the brush, I can't even paint that. How the heck am I supposed to paint that at all? But here, look at this nice liner brush. Look at that. See, we can get that cheekbone even a little bit lighter. There. Back to the ear. So I will be curious. It would be interesting to see if I can print this one up even larger. It is a little bit of a bummer. I don't think they ever did a bust for this one, did they? Pretty sure they never did a bust for this one. I could be wrong, but I don't think they did. And actually, now I'm kind of wondering why. If they didn't, I'm wondering why they didn't. Gonna get a little bit of reflected light here on the chin. And by little, I mean it's just a little bit. I mean, with all that light dress color, we best get some reflect light. See how the cheekbone really starts to come out now, because not so much because we darken the cheek here, it's because we lighten this. Remember on those lizards we were talking about making one area lighter to make something else seem darker? And I think we did another time where we made something really dark just to make something lighter so we didn't have to highlight the heck out of it. So again, taking a little bit of this lighter color here. Nice little reflected light onto the bottom of the cheek here. Or chin, sorry. Maybe a smidge more right there. Let's take some of that out of the brush. So yeah, I didn't expect to be using the 10-0 quite so much today, but it's already proven to be kind of handy. Alright, yeah, so Armored Wolf has a few things kind of going on tonight. So Armored Wolf will be here and there and here. We figured it's just gonna be us fooling around with this Loot Studios figure, so shouldn't be too crazy of an evening here. Yeah, Dan, it's kind of weird because this would be a really good one to do as a bust, but yeah, it's weird. I wonder why they didn't do this one. So, Dano, that magnifier light that I've been talking about, it's not a powerful one. It's just a 3 times diopter. That's it. I actually have one that's a 5. I have another one that's a 7, but that was basically like a medical one that cost, and that was on sale. On sale, it was about $120. It originally would have been more like $700 or something like that. But sadly, it's not practical for any kind of streaming or filming. Found that out the hard way. And just yeah, I mean it's okay. I use it, but not terribly often, unfortunately. So see now the hands here, bring out some of the lighter tones on the fingers. Oh, how hard was that? Was that difficult? I'm thinking it wasn't so difficult. Okay, that's well, Megan, yeah, I don't know. I hope that that all just kind of in the end, it's all a satisfying project in the end, right? Because really nobody knows what you're really hoping for as far as all the different effects go, except for you, unless you tell anybody, in which case then you have released sensitive information. But looking forward to seeing the pics, Megan. I'm thinking I might, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna see what happens here. I want to see what happens if I get at least a little bit of a light area here on top of the eyebrows. It just seems like maybe that should happen. Yeah, that sort of works there. Dano, the magnification definitely. Well, I think you heard me talking about it last night about how much eye strain that it has saved over. Because I was using a magnifier light when I was painting watercolors many years ago. Because those watercolors had to be small enough to fit on a scanner. So I've been painting tiny things, well, at least smaller things for so long, and thank goodness for magnifier lights. Oh, look. Huh? See what's happening there? Megan, no, I look forward to seeing the pictures as always. And it really is. I was really liking that greenish tone. I know I mentioned it there in the message on the underside of the arm there. In many ways, it's kind of like what's going on here, right? Some of that grayish color there. So it's really neat to see that. This should also be a lighter skin tone right here. Just reasons. Might do that as a gold band there or something. Now back to that lighter tone over here. Boy, I am so glad that I just did not bother painting all the tree branches and the stuff on the base. Just something told me I was going to have to hang on to this to be able to get it on screen, and sure enough, I was right. Actually, Dano, when I was doing things at conventions and stuff, if I didn't have the magnifier light, I could see what life was like without the magnifier light, and it weren't pretty. It was not pretty. It was almost like instant eye strain, actually. I mean, I could feel my eyes just kind of struggling and straining. So, can you imagine all those years and not having it? No, I don't even want to imagine all those years without it. But Happy Heretic, actually, again, I haven't used the 10-0 all that much, but you can see, I mean, we've been painting some pretty tiny stuff with this 10-0. Oh, and by the way, this is an hour and 23 minutes. Somehow we feel obligated to mention just how much time we're not spending. And yeah, hour and 23 minutes so far. And this is 75 mil. Well, would you say these are 75 or 72? I don't know. I can never really tell. All right, what we're going to do, going to mix ourselves up some of the Indian yellow, some of the brilliant yellow pale. Oof, that is a nice juicy yellow right there. I'm telling you, it's almost like, you know how Prussian blue sort of zonked cerulean blue and phthalo blue? Indian yellow, it's almost on the cusp of doing that to the cadmiums. And there would be some folks that said, yes, please, by all means, nuke those cadmiums, find something cheaper. I don't know how if it's really all that cheaper, but well, Brilliant Yellow Pale is not a terribly expensive color, right? What is that? Maybe a Series 3 max? Let me see if I can actually find it buried underneath everything else here. Where are you, Brilliant Yellow Pale? You're around here somewhere. Unless somebody else already has that tube nearby. Well, Indian Yellow is a Series 3, so it's not exactly super cheap. I suppose you could just use your white with it, but Brilliant Yellow Pale would definitely be a better choice. Hey, Earthman. So Earthman, I know there's been a couple of sort of orky there's been some Nurgle stuff, I think. There will be stuff that's going to be, I would say, more like that when I get into some of my Lord of the Rings. I got a whole bunch of orc armies to do. So don't be surprised maybe if some of the orc armies are a little bit more along the lines of the grimdark stuff. It's just, well, as far as commissions go, that's never been a request, actually. Never been a request, and for kind of obvious reasons, photography-wise, it doesn't really do a whole lot with it, so it's understandable. But I think maybe for the Lord of the Rings stuff on some of the orc armies, we might be able to play around a little bit more with such things, which would be kind of fun. It's sort of like so Earthman, like I never got a chance to do the TMM stuff, right? Because nobody ever wanted me to do it, but now I'm able to do that stuff because now that I have more control over at least certain things as far as maybe some of the videos go or doing the stuff on Twitch, it gives me more chance to try things that otherwise, unless someone asked me to do it as a commission, it was never going to happen. Because, wow, I mean, think of how much I've done more stuff with the metallic paints in the last 2 months than I had in 20 years. Actually, I probably have done more stuff with metallic paints in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last 20 years. And that's not joking right there. Oh, and by the way, this super long crystal brush, we are painting these teensy tiny little things here, but still letting some of that original pre-glaze influence some of that. Yeah, the 10-0, I really like was it the 18-0? Yeah, I think that's the one. The spotter brushes, I'm not super enthused about. Well, we never were big with the spotter brushes just from the get-go. The liner brushes kind of were the thing. I suppose I should be grateful that Big Acrylic thought that they were going to be very sneaky and basically sell out all of the, was that the quadruple zero rounds from Cotman, because we never would have found these. And of course, then Big Acrylic tried to prevent, well, they prevent Rosemary from sending any kind of sable brushes into the US. Well, at least legally, that is. So Big Acrylic, they thought they had us in a tight spot. Instead, they just opened up a whole new avenue. Now, I guess my next question is, how available are these in Europe? That's my next question. Hey, Wolf Parable, nice to see you again. Welcome back. Having some fun with a nice 75 mil Loot Studio. Well, either faux Ladriel or Schmaladriel. Now, of course, anything here that's not the actual thing, but is the actual thing, we tend to call that the Schma, like much like Schmandorf right here, and much like the not sable brushes, which we call Schmabel brushes. Oh, and guess what? Now, Now we can start to lighten up her here. Now that I know what the skin's going to look like right next to this here, I can start to throw some lights here. And this by no means is the lightest color. Now we're starting to get towards the lighter color for here, right there. Boom. Big difference already. But we had to set that up. Had to do that skin tone first. Now I can start to maybe hit some of the braids in the hair. I don't think that, I'm looking at some Galadriel pictures. I don't know, did they do a whole lot with braids? I don't think they did so much with braids on Galadriel. And now as we get our lights up there, that starts to stand up because we did all of that nice kind of behind the scenes shadow work there. Changing that around. There. Brings that up. Look at the difference between that and that. So, let's see what happens when we do a quick little film noir on this now that we've got some more shading developed on this. But, once again, take a especially look at what's going on here. And then, of course, maybe the skin tone there. And you'll see that pinkish color show up when we do this here. Yeah. So that's what's giving us that little bit of translucency. And to do that, it was real easy, wasn't it? We just took the Terra Rosa, let a little bit of it mix with the Van Dyke Brown pre-glaze, and then we just we're dusting that lighter color over the top with this. All right, so I think we've got that lightened up fairly well. Do I want to lighten this? I don't want to do too much there until we start to think about any kind of a lace type of a thing. And I'm just going to look a little bit closer at that pattern. I don't know. Let's see if we can do something here. If it doesn't work, we can always just get rid of this. Probably not going to make it quite that light either, which means maybe a little touch of Van Dyke Brown in this just to make it not quite straight up white here. So let me see what, I'm just trying to see what the heck they did here pattern-wise. And it looks like it's just a bunch of dots. Maybe we'll just keep it kind of simple as some dots here. Maybe we'll just do this as simple as we can. And maybe we'll fill that in too, but give the impression that it is dots. And then we'll maybe give it a little bit of space in between these things. Yeah, let's give it a little bit of space in between this. Just trying it here, see what happens. We'll have one go up here too. Again, this is the lacy stuff that we were thinking about doing. If we don't like it, we just smear this right off of there and then we try something else. Okay, there's some dots right here. Oh, Captain Slaymore. Oh, thanks, Captain Slaymore. So, yeah, Calvadia. Once we started to do things like that, colors, the darks just seemed way more interesting, and that was something that was really drilled into our heads in art school, was make those darks more interesting. Don't be bland with those darks. But, you know, you see how, well, like the GWs of the world kind of have people working on their miniatures and they want to make it so they can just use GW colors, which makes sense because they want people to buy those paints and such. Well, thank you so much, Captain Slaymore. I appreciate that. This is definitely one that I thought there would be some fun things we could do with the hair and the dress and such. And again, we're just trying to put these little dots in. If it's not dots, if it's all solid, it's not going to look terribly lacy, right? And guess what? We can still go lighter on these the lace pattern here. What's interesting is that on these areas here where the cloth is lighter, we actually have to make, if we're going to do any kind of lace pattern there, it's got to be darker because that kind of gives it that satin sheen type of a deal. Now there, that might have just done a little too much. So I'm just going to take this brush and look at that. See how we can wipe some of that away? We are not stuck with it with the oils. If that was acrylics, we pretty much couldn't wipe that away. We would just have to paint over that. Whereas here we could just kind of go, whatever. Wipe it away, not a big deal, right? All right, well, Dano, thanks so much for hanging out. And yeah, actually, the next chapter studies video is supposed to be Dark Angels, so you'll get to see how that plays out. I feel like the whole thing, there is no true black or white. So Calvadia, basically, Catanite, we just make our own black color. I use the black spinel more so for the pre-glaze type of stuff. But I typically will mix something like indigo and Van Dyke brown together to make a black. I know Kathy will sometimes take phthalo green and mix it with something like maybe alizarin crimson or something even darker than that. You could even take, what is it, our Egyptian violet with something like perline black, mix those together. That would get you one heck of a dark color, that's for sure, but it would actually have color to it. Hey, Grey Wolf. Yeah, I mean, basically, in our art school, you did not have those. Well, you might have had your titanium white in oil painting, but that was about it. And even that was not to be relied on just on its own. So thank you so much, Grey Wolf. I know we had Lord Dave in here a little while ago. He was furiously trying to get, I think he's got his classes set. Now he's trying to get his entry and all that other sort of stuff done. I'm sure it's going to be a tight squeeze for him, that's for sure. So hopefully you're doing well. But Grave, this is, oh yeah, Loot Studios right here. Really, I thought this would be fun to paint, but boy, it's been way more fun. Even more fun than I thought it was going to be to paint. And I thought maybe next week, this is from the Printing Goes Ever On. This is the dark Galadriel right here. Of course, it looks dark because we use the Soraya Smoky Black, but I thought maybe we would try that one next week. That could be fun. I might film a basing episode for that or whatever between now and next week. That could be interesting. And that we're just trying to have some fun with some kind of a hint of a lacy pattern here, but a lacy pattern that actually lets you see through. Because I've never actually had a chance to do that. We did, actually, where's that dark sword figure? Here it is. We did do a bit of a lacy pattern on this thing, but it was a little bit more of your typical kind of black over red. Didn't have any of the see-through stuff going on there like we've got going on here. And of course, the liner brushes have been huge for this. Oh my goodness. I think, in fact, I was probably, there was a part of me that was just waiting to do these until I actually had maybe liner brushes like this or something more like this that I could work with and do this sort of stuff. Yeah, if at a certain point I feel like this is standing out too much, I could just take that blending brush and just kind of soften it. We've certainly done that with freehand before. Now here we're just gonna do a little bit of scrolly stuff right here. Oh, you're just now getting the really the Viking stuff there. So we kind of got that when ever since I did the Sauron figure here, I thought, it could be fun to do that, but maybe on something much larger. And this certainly fits the bill. Yeah, Grey Wolf, there's a lot of folks, they've been telling me they're super excited about that new release there. And that's a lot of stuff from them. Heck, I just want to be able to print out their latest release with the basing stuff, because some of that basing stuff would be absolutely incredible to have for dioramas, for some of my terrain. And actually, the Printing Goes Ever On also has some really neat terrain stuff in their latest release. So now we're just going to go around the back here. Giving the impression that these are little tiny dots of lacy filigree stuff. So Calvary, yep, all of these red handle ones are the Princeton Velvet Touch. And ironically enough, we did most of the painting just with this, one of our beat up Royal Langnickel brushes. Because, we like to use only the best, right? Just those beat up brushes. Let's see what we can do now to, here, move this right down to about there, yeah. These are not the lightest lights yet. We can go lighter than this. We can also go a little bit darker, but right here, there's not much showing through this. So I think we're pretty good going with the lighter tones on this right now. Let's see, we got the monthly Toll Collector's Loot Bundle too. Lots of great, yeah, there really is. Let's see, my Pathfinder threw money at me to get all of that, all the Viking stuff. I guess what I'm most excited about are these ships, especially if maybe I do end up with that larger format printer. Might actually be able to print those ships out. Oh, hey Bettany, how you doing? Boy, it's nice to see you again. Yeah, Bettany, this is the first chance I've had to paint any of the 75 mil stuff in a while, and boy, it's very fun. You get kind of spoiled in a hurry though. I think we've talked about this a couple of times with the 75 mil. You get awful spoiled, or painting the larger busts. You get really spoiled with that. In a hurry because you get to do, well, you get to play a lot more with things. So great with just painting and collecting because, well, I know what you mean. There's really, well, there's a reason why all of the battle reports is just going to be me playing me because that's all there is here. Unfortunately. I have to make sure that this comes all the way down here. And while this seems, I know it seems like the lightest, like we're using straight up white here. That is not straight up white. That's not even brilliant yellow. I mean, we can definitely go lighter than that. And we might also even put a tiny bit of shading underneath that just to make it look like it's being cast down on our arm. So that a little extra dimension in that too. Don't be surprised if that happens. I'm just going to, again, put that, give the impression here that it's some kind of a lacy thing. Betty, well, that's the, kind of the, I don't know, if I have it, if you have it, they will come or something like that. I guess is that the expression that we're gonna have to use? Maybe they'll show up if we have it. Or maybe the opportunity will come along. Let's see, the ships are files for FDM, resin, and hollowed versions with it broken in. See, Artemichael, I think that is the. What are we talking about there, Artemichael? Not like FDM stuff is going to go away forever, but it's, to me, ultimately, resin is still easier than the FDM because it's still easier, I think, to set up a resin printer, even though there's other aspects of resin that might be more difficult at this point than the FDM. I don't know. Some just tells me that in the, not like 10 years, well, maybe not 3 years from now, but I don't know, 4 or 5 years from, maybe not even then, you just won't see too much FDM stuff because the resin printing will have developed to where you can maybe more easily do those bigger things like, well, terrain or ships or whatever. So Calvadia, I don't basically have any more of those ships like you just said there. They are sending some more, but who knows how long it's going to take. If they're sending them for Europe, it could take a while to get here. And also, too, it would be nice to be able to paint some of the. I do have several 3D printed things that I've never had a chance to get to because we were doing the ships on Mondays. So at least for maybe a few weeks, it could be 2 or 3 weeks maybe, while we're waiting for the new ships to show up, I can have some fun. And also like this, right? How often do we get a chance to paint lacy stuff on a 75 mil fig? Yeah, Nerryfield, I mean, for me, is as much as I love things like the busts and stuff, the miniatures will always be the priority. But it does give you a new perspective on the miniatures when you do something that different. Even this is already giving me a different perspective on just when I go back to do miniature, which is going to be probably later tonight. It's a little different view or just kind of a thought process on the miniatures. Now this is more, see these lights right here, I might have to cut into those with something that is actually darker. Won't know until that need maybe arises. So we have, I think there's a couple of orc ships left, and there's maybe one, I know there's a few tiny Empire of Dust ships to do, but I'm also trying to save some of those for doing videos. So we're pretty much exhausted the streaming ships, I guess. But apparently Mantic was watching, and they saw how people were really enjoying having the Armada Mondays, and they wanted to keep that going. Calvetti, it's just fun to be able to. These are kind of the fun type of things right here that I can play around with, try some new and different things. Obviously, like the Lord of the Rings miniatures, bolt action figures. It's going to be more fun to do those because I know I can actually use those. Because as neat as it is to do these, they just kind of sit around and there's not much is going to happen with them after they're done. It is interesting because it does let me do some more elaborate things with basing. It also means that I can do stuff like this, right, and build a larger diorama around it. That's just a Reaper figure. So now that, oh, I guess ReaperCon, we are going to be streaming during ReaperCon. So we'll just save this for ReaperCon. Now, I was originally going to do a series of videos on that, but we'll just save it for ReaperCon. I'm pretty sure that was another thing that I did in a tutorial video. So Nerryfield, I'm going to really try and think of what kind of interesting things we could do for the sales, freehand-wise, what kind of imagery, because finally we have some ships that don't have anything pre-sculpted onto the sails, which I'm really looking forward to. I suppose I could have tried to file off all that stuff on the original ships that they sent, but I was also trying to show people what the ships just, that's how they came. I didn't want to be doing too much modification to them. All right, here we'll give the impression that there's just these little dots here. And hopefully that sort of helps to maintain some of the laciness to it. So I don't know if we'll necessarily be going with their color scheme. I think some Egyptian, wow, can you imagine Egyptian violet there, of course. But there might be some turquoise too. Instead of just that purple, we might try to inject a little more color into it. Remember the Shadow Stalkers, Nerryfield? Maybe something a little bit more like that. So let me see if I can find out. Actually, oh, wait, what if we did ice? Maybe we did, instead of water, we did ice on them. So remember these guys right here? So maybe something a little bit more like that could be interesting. So that was the Shadow Stalkers right there. We did an army painting series on them. Actually, that was the last completed army painting series. But we also painted those on stream. I think that was probably back in actually December, January, whatever, when we painted those. So if people want to see the Shadow Stalker episodes that we did, just head on back to the highlights. Most likely December. I don't know exactly when. It's been a while, to say the least. All right, where is this going to go? Here, I'm just going to do a little bit of the dots right there. Yeah. The 72 mil stuff, it lets me do some fun things freehand wise, which, I mean, you can do those on regular size figs. I do that all the time. But here, maybe you get a chance to show a little bit more of it. Whereas with the 32 and 30 and 28 mil figs, it's more of an impression of it rather than you're actually drawing out a specific design. Nerryfield, there's no lace dots here. It's all totally smooth. We had to set this up first by making sure we got some of the skin tones in there. And then we had to make sure we had enough darker tones around it so that these lighter things were going to show up. And then we're going to go a little bit lighter beyond this even. But we had to set it up with those darker tones first. You must have dark if you want to have light. And by the way, you can see how much darker this is than the white over there. This is by no means the lightest color we're going to be putting onto these things. So these lace dots do not exist on the actual sculpt itself. We're just putting these things on there just to have some fun. It can be very tricky, especially when you have multiple curves. It's one thing if it just like this. If it just curves like this, that's one thing. but here you have a curve plus it extends out this way. So you're basically stretching the fabric and curving it, and that's where things can get a little bit tricky, to say the least. That's where things kind of go, oh my goodness. How do I stretch this thing out and not make it look absolutely ridiculous? But when we started on the other side, we did actually go in and make some changes. We just took our blending brush and just sort of smushed it around and said, okay, that's good. And even at this scale still, it's about creating an impression. If you draw in every last dot of lace, it will end up being a little bit distracting. Now let's see if we can do a little bit of some filigree here. We don't want to interfere with what we did with the gold stuff there. This is just to make this, the ending of her sleeve, look a little bit more interesting than just flat next to this. We should also probably have to put a few dots over there just to give the impression that it's carried out onto the end of her sleeve. Okay, now let's see what happens when we really grab some of our actual light color here. This should be very different here. Let's see what, especially up here. Oh my goodness, wow, look at that. I was expecting it to be lighter, but even that is lighter than what I thought it was going to be, which is good, not bad, but because now what we're going to try and do is bring out certain parts of that lace, because lace is not just evenly dispersed. You've got sort of parts of the lace that are almost a little bit more opaque than others. All right, Bethany, well, I'm glad that you could join us for a little while. I know it's been a bit since you've been able to hang out with us here, and well, I'm glad that you're able to see this one. Really having a blast with this here. So thanks again, Bethany. You have a good one. And Merrifield is getting some bases off of a resin printer, and TBL has a question. So TBL, it would have started with the pre-glaze itself. It would have been entirely different from this. You would have probably seen an awful lot of indigo in the pre-glaze, maybe even some, was it Prussian blue? So the entire, obviously here the pre-glaze was very warm. We would have done something really different. It just would have been a whole different thing. Now, of course, when we're doing this, we are going to have an awful lot of turquoise and blues and indigos and such in that pre-glaze to do the dark Galadriel. Or dark Smaladriel, I guess we should say, since it's not actually Galadriel. Don't want to get anybody in trouble. Okay, you see, we're just, we're not looking to highlight the entire thing. We're just basically putting this lighter dot almost right here in the center of that pattern. And then we'll probably do some other ones here. The more we do of this, I think the more translucent that gets. We won't be doing as much of these lighter colors on the underside here because, well, maybe the light's not just going to hit that quite so much. Now, I thought we had forgotten these. Kind of our light dot right in the center of that little gap that we've got. There we go. And it looks like Kathy is done hanging out with the Pyro Club folks in their little chat there. Who knows, we might be seeing a dog come this way. Well, a squishmallow dog. Anyways, not an actual dog, although he definitely believes that he's an actual dog. Even though he's technically a squishmallow. Getting a couple of extra little brighter hints there, so there we go. And now that I'm looking at this, instead of maybe the lace everywhere, maybe just on the sleeves might be more interesting, actually. Now that I'm looking at this. Well, I think I'll do filigree stuff down here. But instead of maybe the lace pattern on every inch of this, maybe just let it be here on the sleeves. That could maybe be more interesting, actually. I think I gotta make this a little more thick. Yeah. Yep, a little bit thicker here. Down here. Just these impression of lace. We don't have to draw in every last little bit of it. That would just be too much. Because if the lace distracts from the face there, well, what was the point of even painting the face in the first place? Could have just painted lace and been done with it. There has to be just enough of that thinner in this to make sure it flows. That's one of those things, gosh, we just call it like a feel. You get a feel for how much thinner it actually really takes to do something like a pin line wash or whatever. Part of it is too that every paint is going to be different as far as brands go. I certainly found that out when I got the Holbein or Holbein paints. I was not a big fan of those. I know Stila got a bunch of them because, well, it's a Japanese paint, so it was easy for her to get. And then when she started getting other paints, she said, you know, I'm not even sure if I am as big a fan of these. Okay, we'll get a couple of our darks here. Not going to do too much there outside of just get the one little dot in that center. Now I do have here, so this is one of our army painting series. Now this one would have been so much easier to do with the oils because there was a lot of course corrections that I had to do. Oh, there's the dog. I told him there would be a dog. There's Sambo and Kathy. Because Kathy's all done. She's heading off to bed for good night. Oh, because I told him that you were doing all that kind of stuff, getting ready for tomorrow. So you have to, now Kathy has to tell me how to do it because she's the expert. Kathy's the expert now. I don't know any of that stuff. Now I can also do the same thing right here. A couple of lighter dots there. That's supposed to be our gold, catching some light.
So say we all! So say we all!
Thank you so much, Grey Wolf. Boy, we could really use some of this right now. Thank you for fortifying it with a little bit of such and such. Thank you very much. That is appreciated. Well, I forgot how much we could use that. That was very tasty. Of course, it is just medicine, though. Tasty as it is, of course, we don't like it. Who likes to take medicine?